So this now brings us to the fourth area that we're going to be looking at, which is strategies for effective differentiation. And you saw from the video that I talked about strategies, that it's great for us to know and to understand through testing what a working memory deficit looks like. But at the end of the day, as educators, what we want to know is, okay, well, what can I pop into place today that's going to differentiate for that particular child with the working memory deficit, and is it going to be effective? So the first one we look at is rehearsal. Now, rehearsal's a really wonderful strategy to use in the classroom. We all know as adults that we say things over and over and over again in order for them to be stuck into our heads, if you'd like to think of it that way. And the way that we can really do this is looking at around about 4 times and making sure that we're doing it out loud. So the example that I always like to give when I'm lecturing in schools is to be able to say 4 times out loud. Think of it this way. How many times do you drive down to school, drive down the driveway, and you're sitting in the car going, did I leave the iron on at home? For those of you that don't iron, you may have the hair straightener. For those of you that don't have hair, you may have left something else on at home. And you have that moment of panic where you're going, oh my goodness, did I leave the iron on or did I leave the iron off? Hopefully you've got an automatic one that will switch itself off, but think of it in that terms. So what you need to do is to say to yourself at the moment of turning off your iron, you say to yourself, the iron is off, the iron is off, the iron is off, the iron is off. So go back to what we were talking about before. We were talking about that articulatory loop. No, you don't need to use a whisper phone for this activity. Just simply saying it out loud is fine. So 4 times out loud. And what that will do is we'll go through that articulatory loop into that phonological store. So hopefully when you're halfway to school or down the driveway, that you'll have that moment where you go, oh, yes, I remember saying that out loud. I remember actually articulating that the iron is off. And it's a really good strategy for a whole bunch of things. You can use that for asking partners, husbands, children to do particular tasks. Take the garbage out, take the garbage out, take the garbage out, take the garbage out. And always the best strategy after that is to say to them, what did I ask you to do? And they say, take the garbage out. And hopefully that everyone has remembered. So, and ladies, this is directed at you. It is not called nagging. It is based on working memory theory. So number 2 is the pace of our learning. And pace of learning is absolutely paramount to the way that we teach. What we don't want to do is to be teaching our students way too fast, and we don't want to be teaching them way too slow. If I was to present this lecture to you and my presentation was, let's do this, working memory, this, what you're not going to be able to do is retain what you've learned. Okay, you'll be going, oh my goodness, what did Amanda just say? You'll have to go back and you'll have to rewind. We don't have that luxury in a classroom. There is no rewind button in a classroom for us as teachers. So the way that you deliver your class to your students is absolutely paramount, specifically for kids that have these working memory deficits. And we don't want it to be too slow either. If we're thinking of presenting something way too slow, then 2 things are going to happen. We either fall asleep or distractors are going to come in. So again, be mindful of that in your classroom. How am I presenting my information to my students? Is the pace of my delivery fast enough, not too slow, that allows retention to occur? And the lucky last one is chunking. What we need to make sure that we're doing is that we're actually breaking down information into chunks rather than simply giving a whole bunch of information. We want to make sure that we're able to present information to students in a chunking way. So one example of that is when we're teaching reading. We all know that there are 3 graphemes of INCAT, K, AT for example. But what we need to do, there's three, think of it, three separate bits of information there. But what we need to do when we're looking at teaching reading specifically is to chunk. If we chunk k, at, then we've now got two pieces of information there. Okay, that then decreases what's called the cognitive load of the task. We've gone from 3 to 2. So that is something that speech therapists will use quite often as a strategy. And anytime that we can chunk, it decreases the cognitive load of the task. And that it will also be spoken about in my additional lecture on differentiation in the material and the design and their environment and how we teach. So please feel free to have a look at that one and join in on that as well.